Everything in Terraria is secretly a projectile. Well, not everything, that's hyperbole, but a lot more is a projectile than you'd think at first glance. For example, this is a projectile. Now that should be obvious given that it is a projectile in the traditional sense, but what about this? Or this? These absolutely aren't projectiles in any traditional sense, but in-game, they are projectiles nonetheless. This is because of how broad and versatile projectiles in Terraria are. Projectiles are objects that are both tangible, meaning they can affect combat, yet non-interactive, meaning they are mostly autonomous. Projectiles are also generally persistent for however long you need them to be. This contrasts them with dust and gore, which are intangible and generally time-limited, and NPCs, which are able to be directly interacted with by the player, like with talking or HP. This category of non-interactive, yet tangible and persistent objects is a large and important one in Terraria. Despite being non-interactive, projectiles can still have complex, persistent AI, meaning they're perfect for any entity that doesn't need player interaction, which is, well, most of them. For example, all pets are actually projectiles. You want a pet to have a complex AI to do pet things and be persistent, unlike Gores, yet you don't need a pet to be interactive with stuff like menus, HP values, or the like. In this case, a projectile works perfectly, despite pets being distinctly not projectiles in the common sense. Likewise, minions and sentries are also all projectiles, since like pets they need complex and persistent AI, but don't care about interactiveness given their plug-and-play nature and invincibility. Honestly, minions are basically just pets, but with damage values. It's also pretty common for weapons to be projectiles. And no, I'm not talking about the product of the weapon or the thing it shoots, I'm talking about the weapon itself. An example is how all spears are actually projectiles. This is because when in use, spear sprites need to be a lot longer than their item sprites would allow, otherwise they would be pretty crappy to use. If a standard use animation was used, then the game would use the default item sprite, which is too short. So instead, the game skips that and spawns a projectile with the longer sprite instead. This allows spears to be nice and compact in your hotbar, yet be plenty long for combat elsewhere. In this vein, all weapons and items that need non-standard use animations are generally rendered in use as projectiles. Just as a few examples, short swords are changed to use projectiles in 1.4 to accommodate their ability to stab in all directions. All drills, chainsaws, and jackhammers are projectiles, due to their persistent nature, as are yo-yos for the same reason. Ranged weapons with special abilities are also often implemented as projectiles. The Phantom Phoenix, Vortex Beater, Celebration Mark II, and Phantasm are all actually projectiles in use, likely due to their need for special abilities. 3 of them also have an animation in use, which would be impossible to implement using standard use styles and item sprites. There are also a few other examples of sprite animations necessitating projectiles like this. Using projectiles to do weapon rendering like this also leads to the rather funny scenario where these ranged weapons actually deal contact damage. This is because projectiles are still tangible objects with hitboxes, but that's a topic for another video I already made. In summary, using a projectile to render a weapon just gives you so much more versatility than using a standard preset static use animation. Aside from weapons, there's also a few more assorted interesting examples. All grappling hooks are actually projectiles, although I suppose they are projectiles in the traditional sense too for a bit after they're fired. The wire blueprints you place down to the grand design are projectiles, and if you spawn one manually, it creates a line of wire extending to the end of the world for some reason. Fishing bobbers are all projectiles, as are whips and the quad racer drone. Boss cosmetics, like the Lunatic Cultist's Circle and the Aurora around the Empress, are also projectiles. And falling sand, dirt, mud, and ash, although short-lived, are also projectiles as needed to be tangible and deal damage. The same goes for tombstones, although I guess they didn't get to use that deal damage part until For the Worthy. That was a large, but not exhaustive list of how projectiles are used in Terraria. They cover quite a lot. It's quite interesting. If I had to take any trivia away from this video, it would be that portals are projectiles, but the Vile Spit isn't. The portal is a projectile for the many reasons I've already gone over, but why isn't it clearly projectile Vile Spit? Well, it's because they need to be destructible. You can parry them to destroy them before they reach you. This behavior requires an HP value, an NPC-only feature, which is why they aren't projectiles, but NPCs. So that's why the Vile Spit is the most projectile-like projectile that isn't, while the portal is the least projectile-like projectile that is. If you want to mess about with projectiles, you can use a cheat mod, like DragonLens, the one I use, to change what projectiles items fire. You can end up with some weird, wacky, and definitely interesting result of that, and I made a video on it. Consider watching if you're interested. If you enjoy my content, consider subscribing, as 3/4 of you aren't, especially since we're currently going through the no item pickup streams, so you'll want to be subscribed for that. Either way though, thank you for watching, and good day, and goodbye. See you next week.